The phone rang at 2:07 a.m. I almost ignored it. At my age, late-night calls usually meant one of two things: wrong number or bad news. I never imagined it would become the beginning of the darkest chapter of my life. "Grandpa, please don't hang up." Those 6 trembling words still echo in my mind. They didn't just wake me from sleep. They shattered every illusion I had about my own family. If you've ever watched someone betray an innocent child, if you've ever wished karma would finally catch people who thought they were untouchable, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay until the end, because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about justice. My name is Harold Bennett. I'm 62 years old. For more than 4 decades I built houses, repaired broken buildings, and solved problems nobody else wanted to deal with. I believed retirement meant peaceful mornings, fishing trips, and drinking coffee beside my wife Evelyn. I couldn't have been more wrong. The biggest problem of my life wasn't waiting at a construction site. It was sitting comfortably inside my own family. My only son, Ethan, married an ambitious woman named Vanessa almost 10 years earlier. She was beautiful, smart, always smiling, too perfect. Even during their wedding reception, I noticed something strange. She spoke to everyone exactly the way politicians speak during election season. Every conversation felt rehearsed. Every compliment sounded practiced. She remembered people's hobbies, jobs, birthdays, yet somehow never seemed interested in the people themselves. "Evelyn," I whispered that night, watching Vanessa glide through the ballroom with another flawless smile. "She's collecting information, not building relationships." My wife laughed softly and nudged my shoulder. "Harold, stop analyzing the bride. Maybe I should have listened. Or maybe I should have trusted my instincts." Because years later that same woman would make a decision so cruel that it would force me into a battle against my own son. Looking back now, the warning signs were everywhere. The problem was, they appeared one tiny piece at a time. By the time I finally saw the full picture, it was almost too late. About 3 years after Ethan and Vanessa got married, doctors told them they couldn't have children. The news devastated them. For months they disappeared from family gatherings, avoiding every question about starting a family. Then one afternoon they surprised everyone. They had adopted a beautiful 7-month-old baby girl. They named her Lily. That should have been one of the happiest moments of our lives. Instead, it became the beginning of something none of us recognized. Within weeks, Vanessa created a social media page called Lily's Journey. At first it seemed harmless. Photos, milestones, family memories. People loved it. Followers poured in by the thousands. Soon companies began sending free baby products, diaper brands, formula companies, toy manufacturers. Every smiling picture of Lily attracted more sponsors. Every sponsored post earned more money. Then came the nonprofit. Vanessa announced a charity supposedly dedicated to helping adoptive families. Donations flooded in. Strangers mailed gifts from across the country. People believed they were supporting a little girl who had overcome incredible odds. Only later did I realize they weren't celebrating Lily. They were marketing her. One afternoon I stopped by unexpectedly. Vanessa had bright studio lights pointed directly at Lily's face. The little girl, barely 2 years old, was exhausted. "Smile again, sweetheart." "No, not that smile." "Wave at the camera one more time." Again, and again, and again. I finally stepped into the room. "Vanessa. She's 2 years old. She isn't an actress." Without even looking up from her phone, Vanessa sighed. "It's for a sponsorship, Harold. The company pays more if engagement stays high." The words hit me like cold rain. Not, "They love her." Not, "We're making memories." Just, "They pay more." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering why every happy family moment suddenly needed perfect lighting, expensive cameras, and a paycheck. I tried convincing myself I was imagining things. Maybe this was simply how young parents lived now. Maybe I was too old to understand social media. I wanted to believe that. More than anything, I wanted to believe I was wrong. Because I had no idea the little girl smiling into those cameras would one day be treated like a product whose value had expired. Everything changed the year Lily turned 6. Not overnight, not with one dramatic event. It happened so slowly that almost nobody noticed. Except me. A year after adopting Lily, Ethan and Vanessa welcomed their biological son, Noah. Everyone celebrated. including me. I loved that little boy from the moment I held him, but somewhere between bringing Noah home and celebrating his first birthday, Lily stopped being the center of the family. She became an afterthought. I remember her 6th birthday like it happened yesterday. The backyard was covered with colorful balloons. Music floated through the warm afternoon air. Neighbors laughed. Children ran through sprinklers. Vanessa walked around filming everything for social media. Except, she wasn't filming the birthday girl. Her camera followed Noah everywhere. Look at mommy, do your little dance. Oh, that's adorable. Meanwhile, Lily sat alone at the edge of the yard, quietly blowing bubbles into the wind. No presents in her lap. No one beside her. Just a tiny girl pretending she didn't notice she had become invisible. I walked over and sat beside her. Without saying a word, she handed me the bubble wand. We blew bubbles together for almost 20 minutes. Neither of us spoke much. Sometimes silence tells you everything words never could. Across the yard, I watched Ethan laughing beside the barbecue. I walked over. Your daughter is sitting alone. He glanced toward her for barely a second. She's okay, Dad. She likes playing by herself. I looked him straight in the eyes. Does she, or has she simply learned nobody comes unless she asks twice? His smile faded. He flipped another burger without answering. That silence hurt more than any excuse could have. Over the next 2 years, I noticed dozens of little moments. Lily waiting patiently while Noah opened presents first. Lily asking permission before speaking. Lily apologizing for accidents that weren't her fault. Then came Thanksgiving. She quietly asked if she could have the wishbone this year. Noah had gotten it the previous 2 holidays. Vanessa smiled without even looking at her. Maybe next year, sweetheart. Noah gets excited about those things. Lily lowered her eyes. So do I. She whispered it so softly I almost missed it. Nobody answered. The conversation simply moved on. That single sentence haunted me for weeks. Because it wasn't about a wishbone. It was about an 8-year-old little girl slowly realizing that in her own home she had become second place. And deep inside, I knew something far worse was still coming. A few weeks after Thanksgiving, Ethan and Vanessa announced they had booked a luxurious 10-day Caribbean cruise. Ocean view suite. Private excursions. 5-star dining. The kind of vacation most people only dream about. Naturally, 4-year-old Noah was going with them. Lily wasn't. She gets seasick, Vanessa said casually over the phone. I frowned. Has she ever even been on a boat? A brief silence. I just know she wouldn't enjoy it. That answer bothered me more than it should have. Instead of taking Lily with them, they asked Evelyn and me to watch her while they were away. We happily agreed. To Lily, spending time with Grandma and Grandpa was an adventure. She laughed more during those first 3 days than I'd heard in months. For a moment, I dared to believe everything would be okay. Then, at 2:07 a.m., on the 3rd night, my tablet rang. It was Lily. I answered immediately. Grandpa. Her tiny voice trembled. Please don't hang up. Every nerve in my body tightened. I sat upright so fast that my bad back screamed in protest. Lily? Sweetheart. What's wrong? I'm okay. I'm not hurt. She struggled to breathe between words. I wasn't trying to snoop, I promise. I was looking for my game on Mommy's laptop, and there was an email open. My heart started pounding. What did it say? For several seconds, she couldn't answer. Then came the sentence that changed my life forever. It said, when the trip is over, she'll be gone. Silence swallowed the room. My mouth went dry. What do you mean? Lily's voice cracked. Grandpa, why? What did I do wrong? I have been angry before. I've dealt with dishonest contractors, greedy businessmen, people who tried to cheat my workers. Nothing. Absolutely nothing, compared to hearing an 8-year-old child ask what she had done to deserve being abandoned. I forced my voice to stay calm. You didn't do anything wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing. She sniffled. Then why would Mommy write that? I closed my eyes. I don't know yet. But I promise you this. I'm going to find out. And whatever happens, I'm not letting anyone take you away. Behind me, Evelyn was already awake. She had heard every word. The moment I ended the call, she looked straight into my eyes. They're not getting rid of that little girl. Her voice was calm, but I recognized the fire behind it. I nodded slowly. No. They just declared war, and they have no idea who they picked to fight with. I didn't sleep another minute that night. Neither did Evelyn. While Lily finally drifted off under her favorite blue quilt, the two of us sat at the kitchen table, staring at the photos she had secretly taken of the email on Vanessa's laptop. They were blurry, dark, barely readable. But they were enough. I enlarged the first picture until the words became clear. The subject line read, Transition Timeline. My stomach tightened. I kept reading. Once you're back from the cruise, we can finalize the placement quietly. No public announcement. The foundation can be rebranded around Noah within 60 days. Existing sponsors should remain unaffected. I stopped breathing for a second. This wasn't an emotional decision. It wasn't overwhelmed parents making a terrible mistake. This was a business plan. A carefully organized plan. Every sentence treated Lily like inventory. Every paragraph sounded like two executives discussing a product launch instead of an 8-year-old child. Evelyn covered her mouth. They've planned this for months. I nodded. And they expected nobody to notice. Then I saw another line. No refund obligations on previous sponsorship agreements. That sentence changed everything. They weren't only abandoning Lily. They intended to keep every dollar they had earned using her name. I leaned back in my chair. For years I had ignored the warning signs. Not anymore. I called my attorney before sunrise. She answered with the groggy voice of someone who expected bad news. She had no idea how bad. After I slowly read every line from the email, she interrupted me. Harold, don't confront them. Not yet. I know what you're feeling. But feelings don't win court cases. Evidence does. She was right. As much as I wanted to call Ethan and scream until my voice disappeared, that wouldn't save Lily. Proof would. Within an hour I had printed every photo. Made 3 separate copies. One stayed with Evelyn. One went into a sealed envelope addressed to my attorney. The third never left my backpack. If someone destroyed one, 2 more would survive. Then I searched the cruise itinerary. The ship would stop at another port in less than 15 hours. There was exactly 1 flight that could get me there in time. 1 seat remained. The ticket cost nearly $700. I didn't hesitate for a single second. Evelyn watched me pack. You're really going? I have to. What exactly are you planning to do? I zipped my suitcase shut. I'm going to board that ship. I'm going to find out everything they've been hiding. And when this cruise ends, my son and his wife won't just lose their plan. They're going to lose every single thing they were willing to sacrifice Lily to protect. For the first time in my life, I wasn't traveling as a father. I was going as a grandfather. And I was ready for war. By the time my plane landed, the cruise ship was already preparing to leave its next port. I ran through the terminal with my suitcase bouncing behind me, my lungs burning and my bad knee screaming with every step. I barely made it aboard. Fate, however, had one more surprise waiting for me. My nephew Ryan worked in cruise security. The moment he saw me standing at the boarding gate, sweating through my shirt, his eyes widened. Uncle Harold? What are you doing here? I need your help, I said. And I need you to trust me before you ask questions. 10 minutes later, inside a small security office, I told him everything. Lily, the email, the adoption agency, the sponsorship money, the plan to abandon an 8-year-old girl. Ryan didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he simply clenched his jaw. I'm in. Over the next 24 hours, we carefully gathered evidence. Using the ship's business center logs, Ryan discovered something that made my blood run cold. On the very first day of the cruise, Ethan and Vanessa had printed 2 confidential documents. The first was a consultation summary from a child placement agency. It had been prepared before the cruise even began. This wasn't a sudden decision. They had planned it long before stepping onto that ship. The second document was even worse. A spreadsheet. Vanessa's spreadsheet. One column was labeled Lily, the other Noah. Each child had a financial value beside their name. Sponsorship income. Brand partnerships. Projected earnings. At the bottom of Lily's column, one sentence was highlighted in bold. Transition after cruise. Protect current sponsorships through Q4. I stared at those words until they blurred. They hadn't raised Lily as a daughter. They had managed her like a business investment. That evening I watched Ethan and Vanessa from across the pool deck. Vanessa laughed while filming Noah playing in the water. Do it again, sweetheart. One more splash. Perfect. Not once. Not a single time did either of them mention Lily. It was as if she had already been erased from their family. That was the exact moment I stopped hoping there had been some horrible misunderstanding. There wasn't. There was only greed. Cold, calculated greed. I folded the evidence back into my jacket. Tomorrow night, I wasn't going to hide anymore. Tomorrow, my son was going to face the truth. And this time, he wouldn't have anywhere left to run. The final night of the cruise arrived. The dining hall sparkled with crystal chandeliers. A string quartet played softly in the background while families laughed over expensive dinners. It looked like the perfect ending to a luxury vacation. For Ethan and Vanessa, it was the beginning of the end. I walked calmly toward their table. Neither of them noticed me until I pulled out the empty chair and sat down. Ethan nearly dropped his glass. "Dad, how are you even here?" "I've been here for 3 days," I replied quietly. Watching, Vanessa forced a nervous smile. "This really isn't the time, I think it's the perfect time." I placed a folder on the white tablecloth. Inside were copies of everything. The email, the agency consultation, the financial spreadsheet, the ship's communication records, every lie, every plan, every dollar attached to Lily's name. Vanessa's smile disappeared. "Where did you get those?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that an 8-year-old little girl called me at 2 in the morning asking what she'd done wrong." Silence. Even Ethan couldn't look me in the eyes. I slid the spreadsheet toward him. "You didn't raise a daughter. You managed an investment. You calculated exactly how much she was worth, and exactly when you planned to throw her away." Vanessa finally snapped. "You don't understand how expensive our lives are. The foundation, the sponsors, the private school." I raised my hand. "Stop. Every word you say makes this easier." Ethan's voice cracked. "Dad, please, if this becomes public, it'll destroy us." I stared at my son. "The moment you decided Lily was disposable, you destroyed yourselves. I'm just making sure the world sees it." The next morning, the ship returned to port. Waiting at the terminal were my attorney, child welfare investigators, and officers carrying legal documents. Before Ethan and Vanessa could even leave the dock, emergency custody proceedings had already begun. Within weeks, every sponsor abandoned them. Their nonprofit collapsed. Their social media empire disappeared. Their reputation vanished almost overnight. Most importantly, Lily never returned to that house. The court granted Evelyn and me permanent custody. Years have passed since then. Today, Lily laughs without looking over her shoulder. She plays soccer. She argues over desserts. She runs into my arms without asking permission. One afternoon, she looked at me and smiled. "Grandpa, you really fought for me." I smiled back. "I'll fight for you every single day of my life." Because revenge wasn't watching my son lose everything. The real victory was making sure one little girl never again questioned whether she was worth loving. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Grandpa Harold's place? Until next time, remember this: karma doesn't always arrive quickly, but when it does, it never knocks.